Falcon fans, it's your boy Ricardo coming back at you with another video. Today we're going to talk about the Atlanta Falcons defense going into 2023. All this talk about the offense. I know I have talked about Desmond Ridder, talked about B.J. Robinson, talked about Kyle Pitts, talked about Tyler Algier, Cordell Patterson, how explosive this offense can be. But what I really am excited about this season is the Atlanta Falcons defense. And we're going to get into that today. How excited I am and how good can this Atlanta Falcons defense be this year. So guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to this channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys out here that I talk about. And please share the video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in here and talk about these Atlanta Falcons. So guys, it's not a secret about the Atlanta Falcons. When you think about Atlanta Falcons, you really don't think about the defensive side of the ball, right? You think about all the years, especially over the last decade or so, you're probably thinking about Julio Jones, Matt Ryan. Go further back than that, you probably think about a guy like Michael Vick. Think about when we had the Dirty Birds, you're thinking about those guys, right? You really don't think about defense when you think about Atlanta Falcons. And it's about time the Atlanta Falcons bring some kind of defense and identity to this team. The truth is the Atlanta Falcons have had only 2 top 10 defenses since 1998. And 1998 was one. And guess what? We went to the Super Bowl that year. And then the next time was 2017, the year after the Super Bowl, when we went to the division round and lost against the Philadelphia Eagles. Those was the only 2 years that the Atlanta Falcons had a top 10 defense. So, we talk about, why, our offense couldn't get done, why Atlanta Falcons couldn't be consistent and win, because in reality, the defense just has not lived up to, the level of the offense. Now, could that have been because the front office and the team building always focus on players on offense, and the focus trying to go out and outscore teams and things like that? I mean, we can recall some games where the Atlanta Falcons put up 42 points and still lost, 35 points and still lost. So many times, you think about Matty Ice, what his record would be if he just had a consistent defense and some of those prolific offense he had with him and Julio and Roddy and Tony Gonzalez and Michael Turner and all those things. But in reality, the defense has been a focus for this Atlanta Falcon team. That's what it seems like, throughout the years. Now, you see how much the Atlanta Falcons have invested, right? This offseason, I think, and the interesting thing about it is an offensive coach going out and want to try to invest heavily on the defense side of the ball, which they did. All right, if we go look at the Atlanta Falcons number from last year on the defense side of the ball, it was ranked 25th in passing, 23rd in rushing, and 27th in total yards. It's definitely in the bottom half of the league in all those categories. Now, one thing the Atlanta Falcons was good in last year was scoring. They was able to keep teams out of the end zone, so they was not giving up a lot of points on the board. However, that total yards, the rushing yards, really, limited the number of offensive snaps for our offensive side because we could not get out the field, especially on third downs. So we allowed teams to drive the ball, keep the time possession in their favor. Okay. And then at the end, yes, we was able to not let them get in the end zone, but, it limited the number of possessions that we had on the offensive side of the ball. That's what we have to change. Now, I know you guys recall last year when Dean Pease went on his rant, and he was saying that we have to change the perception, the reputation about the Atlanta Falcons around here, right? And that's 100% true. That's what this regime, you can see what they're trying to do this year. When they go out and pick up all these different guys on the defensive side of the ball and trying to change the identity. I have said a couple times, on this podcast where I would like to see Atlanta Falcons, develop that mentality over an NFC North team, the Baltimore Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, to where when the teams come in, they do not want to play, this Atlanta Falcons defense because they know it's going to be a physical game. These guys going to be hitting. And, in reality, it always starts in the trenches on the defensive side of the ball. And we can look at the additions that the Atlanta Falcons have made. And a lot of people, don't like because they didn't go out and get big name guys. But the guys they did, were able to bring in really is going to help solidify this team. I think this is the first time you look at a guy like Grady Jarrett, who was probably third in the lead in quarterback pressures. If you put him up against a guy like Daron Payne, who got paid really, really handsome this year, and of course a guy like Aaron Donald, he's right up there with quarterback pressures, right? He only had 6 sacks, but being able to pressure the get in the backfield from a defensive tackle position is what Grady Jarrett is very good at. Also, another guy that's really, really good at that was the guy we acquired from the New Orleans Saints was David Onyemata. Another guy who's really, really underrated, but pairing him up with a guy like Grady Jarrett is definitely going to help Grady Jarrett. And then you think about bringing in a guy who we thought we was going to have on this offense, defensive side of the ball last year was a guy like Eddie Goldman. Eddie Goldman is also a good defensive tackle that can come in and help stop the run game. That's what we was 23rd in rushing. We definitely want to be able to factor that. When I go back and look at the Carolina Panthers game and the Washington Commander games, it just gave me nightmares because we could not get off the field in the running games against both of those teams. It was just really, really bad for us. I think our rushing defense will definitely be a whole lot better this year. I don't want to forget about, the great job that a guy like Taquan Graham did as well. And then you add in additions of a guy like Calais Campbell, who's going to bring that veteran leadership and still is playing really productive football himself, in his 15 going into his 16th season. So you really got to like the additions that the Atlanta Falcons have brought, right? Now you think about the pass rush, of course, that's always the question about this team because we have really have not found a consistent pass rush probably since John Abraham left this team. We had a good bright spot one year, 2016 Super Bowl year with Vic Beasley. Other than that, we have not had a guy that can come in and put up, double-digit sacks. Is that person on this team this year? Maybe not, but if you look at the collective of the guys that have been acquired this year from the Atlanta Falcons, you get, you might get the production that you want to have. If you look at a team like the New Orleans Saints, right? They had over a whole bunch of sacks over the years if you just look at it. But last year, and for an example, their leading sack getter was Mr. Guy on the end that we don't want to say his name, and he had only 8 sacks. But as a collective, you had guys getting 7 sacks, 6 sacks, 5 sacks, right? If we can produce something similar to that from Atlanta Falcons standpoint, I really believe that it's really going to be able to help us out, this year. So the pass rush is definitely going to be something that we definitely need to work on. But a guy like Bud Dupree coming in, bringing back Lorenzo Carter, who was second in the league in sacks on the team last year with 4 sacks. Yes, that's all 4 sacks. He was second. But you bring in a second-year guy like Evan Katie, who we already mentioned. Another guy who's really, really has a motor that I think has the potential in D'Angelo Malone. Then you bring in the factor of a guy like Katie Ellis, who really was played all over the field last year for New Orleans. Had 7 sacks himself. The potential that a guy like Troy Anderson can have as well, blitzing the quarterback. So you add all those pieces in. I think this Atlanta Falcons defense, from a front 7 standpoint, can definitely add that quarterback pressure that we need, right? Also, we're going to definitely talk about the back end of the defense. The acquisition of Jesse Bates III is definitely going to help. Richard Grant going to his 3rd year AJ Terrell, they just picked a fifth year option, so definitely this is somewhat of a contract year for him. You expect him to continue to ascend into being a pro player, Pro Bowl level player that he can be. Jeff Okudah definitely has something to prove himself, being a number 3rd overall pick. And then the competition that we're going to have in the slot position there as well, with the additions of guys that they brought in free agency and in the draft with a guy like Clark Phillips, right? Mike Hughes, another guy they brought in, another first-round pick. Trey Flowers, a guy they brought in. I don't want to forget about D. Alford and Darren Hall as well in that slot position. So all those guys, the competition in the cornerback room is definitely going to be very competitive, but I think that's going to make this defense even better. But at the end of the day, I believe that this defense has the potential to finally get into that top 10 ranking because of the chemistry and the pieces that they can definitely put together. Like I said, once and for all, Grady Jarrett finally has somebody that he definitely could say would be some running mates on that defensive line, and then the ability to actually have a rotation in the defensive line is definitely going to help as well. You can keep guys fresh. Bringing in a young guy like Zach Harrison to come in and be in the backup. Also, like I said, the rotation you can have with your defensive line, with a Calais, with a Grady, with a Taquan Graham, with a Eddie Goldman. All these guys coming in, being fresh, being ready to stop the run first and foremost, to get in 3rd and longs, and then be able to pressure the quarterback. That's the kind of production that we hopefully get to see out of this defense this year. But without saying it, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think the Atlanta Falcons definitely have the potential to be and finally be a top 10 defense this year. It always really going to boil down to the pass rush. Of course, a lot of people, it's not sold on because we did not go bring in the big name pass rushers and things like that. But I do believe in the development that the Falcons have. I mean, you invested in a guy in the 2nd round in Armor Ebiketie. I think he showed flashes last year where he definitely is going to improve. I think Lorenzo Carter really can do better than what he did last year. Played really well. Had 2 big plays for us. In the of course, he had a pick 6. He had a scoop and score on a punt block. These are the things that you think you like to build on from a team, but we have to start to change the reputation for this Atlanta Falcons. We don't want to look at Atlanta Falcons as just an offensive team, right? We still can just look on the offensive side of the ball and be excited about how prolific this offense, the potential that it could be with the pieces, that Desmurder has to distribute and get the ball to, right? We can look at on that side of the ball, but I really believe that the Atlanta Falcons gonna be where they want to be this year and in the future. It has to be on the defensive side of the ball. You got to be able to stop people, and believe it or not, we're going to talk about this. Believe it or not, the best defense in NFL history is from the Atlanta Falcons. That's right. I don't know if you ever heard of the Grit Blitz. So go out and look up the Grit Blitz. 1977, the Atlanta Falcons gave up 9.2 points a game. 9.2 points a game. That's the lowest in NFL history. I know people want to talk about the Baltimore Ravens defense in 2000, right? In the 1985 Bears, but the Baltimore Ravens gave up about 10.2. So we got them in that. We had them in yards as well. The Atlanta Falcons only gave up 231 yards a game. Yes, it was in 14 games, so believe it or not, it could have probably been even better than that if they played the 17 games that they play in the league today. The Atlanta Falcons only gave up 129 points total in that season. So Atlanta Falcons has the best defense in NFL history. Can we get back to those kind of standards, right? To live up to something like that. Not saying we're going to be top 5, but I really believe that Atlanta Falcons do have the potential to be a top 10 defense. I mean, with the additions that we have had, with the guys that's already here that you want to develop, you want to see improve, and I believe they can. Not knowing exactly how this defense is going to be schemed, because we had a new defensive coordinator in, but I think the pieces are there. I think it's more depth, especially on that front line, the defensive line, which is going to keep guys fresh, going to be able to, like I said, get after the quarterback, be able to continue to get these teams in third and long. And hopefully, unlike other Atlanta Falcon defenses, when we get teams in third and long, they won't be able to convert on us on consistent basis like they have done over the years. So, guys, let me know what you think about our Atlanta Falcon defense this year. Do they have potential to be a top 10 defense? I believe they do. Just look at all the additions that the Atlanta Falcons have added. They really, really focused on the defensive side of the ball this year. Despite some needs that we had on offense, especially if you think about the receiver position, right? But we have talked a lot about what this offense can do and how prolific it can be with all the weapons and all the investments that the Atlanta Falcons have made in the draft on the offensive side. But if you look at this season, what they did in free agency on the defensive side of the ball, it seems like they're trying to level the playing field for this can be a complete team on offense and defense, and adding that depth on the special teams. So, guys, I believe that the Atlanta Falcons can be a top 10 defense this year, but time will tell. Of course, guys got to get better. Guys got to grow. We need Ebiketie to at least have 6 sacks this year. If he can get his sack number up to 6, that would be awesome. Guy like D'Angelo Malone get up to 4, right? And then all those other guys just do what they have done, from last season and beyond. And I think we could see that sack total go up, and we can see our ranking in defense, creep into that top 10. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video.